Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to day 6 of our Christmas Advent coloring calendar by Hand Drawn by Mel. I'll leave a link down below if you still need to download it. It's never too late to start. We're going to get right to it. For the green of this one, we're going to start with Hooker's Green number 54 from Castle Arts. And really the color palette for this page is pretty much set now. There will be a few exceptions, but in this square and in most of the others, we'll be reusing colors that we've already used, just in different ways maybe, or different combinations, but really helps to make a cohesive page if you don't use too many different colors, unless that's the theme for the page, that it's all different. There are, lots of different ways to make a color palette, but for this one I wanted there to be kind of a cohesive look all the way through. So this green that we're using right now is also in the background here and in the leaves here, and it'll be sprinkled around in some of the other pages too, I'm sure. So just pretty basic. We're going to do the darker color first. Darker color wherever you want, kind of the shadow. Since we're only using 2 colors of green, these squares are really so small that you don't need too many colors, otherwise it gets a little too complicated. Although what I am going to do, now that I think about it, is I remember now that the second green I'm going to use is pretty bright, and I don't really want this one bright, so I'm going to, where I left it white here on the leaves, I'm going to color just a real light touch of the darker green, so then when blended with the other color it won't be quite so bright. And there's not anything wrong with bright. That's what I did for the first set of leaves. There's a pretty bright green on them, but for this one I wanted a little bit more muted. Keep seeing little pieces I missed the first time through. Okay, now for the lighter green. And if it's still too bright, although it is, again, it's darker on the screen for you than it is in real life, but if it's still too bright, I might go over it again with the darker color just to mute it a little even more. Oops, sorry, I feel like this should be green too, now that I look at it. Because that's the part of the stem. Sorry for bumping the camera. I also feel like this, maybe. The way it's drawn, I can't tell if that's supposed to be the stem, but this is what makes sense to me, so that's what I'm doing. Okay, now for the background, we're going to use the same parchment kind of colors from the tag on this one and the candle on this one. Maybe a hair darker than those. So I'm going to use more of this as Seashell Pink 1093 from Prismacolor Premier. Relatively heavy on the outside since I won't be blending that part too much. And we'll see how it works because the lighter color is a Castle Arts pencil. So we'll see how that works because it's a little harder than this. We'll see if it smears it around or it doesn't work well. I guess we're going to experiment. I have another combination that I usually like to use for parchment, but I didn't start using it on this one. I wanted this one to be a little simpler, so it's not really parchment, it's kind of an off-white blend. Actually, now that I look at it, I kind of want the middle to be almost white. My other blend, it uses the color I was going to use, that it was the Naples Yellow Light, which kind of has a yellow tint to it, and I'm not sure that's what I want here now that I look at it. So I might just use a white Prismacolor to blend this into the middle. So here on the edge, I'm putting pretty dark, pretty hard pressure. And then as I go in, I get gradually lighter. I might be changing my mind again because these berries on the mistletoe are also supposed to be white. And I don't really want white on white, so I'm going to go heavier on this than I originally planned. Maybe we'll just make the whole background this one solid color. It wasn't my original plan, but things can change and it'll still work out. Maybe what I do is make this a little darker around the edges with one of the browns from here, which is totally not what I was thinking at the beginning, but that's the beauty of art. Simple as it is, it can still change and morph as you go, and that's kind of like that part of the process. Or I might have to add just a little, I don't know, I think the dark brown, the browns in here are either going to be too dark or too red, I think. So I did use a Polychromos brown in the shadow of the ribbon that I could maybe use here, just to give a little subtle gradient to the background around the edge. So that is a Polychromos Burnt Sienna 283. Just maybe in the corners a little bit. Just a little bit. Very light pressure. gosh, I can barely see that. I feel like the things that are dark get darker on the screen, and the things that are light get lighter on the screen. Is that a thing? Because it seems like a thing. And this is one of those, it's right at the edge, and my printer didn't print it, so I had to fill in this with a pen. So it looks a little messier. If you pay attention better than I did when you print it out, it will be complete. Yeah. Maybe even I can do a little shadow around there. I just don't want those white berries to get lost. But I don't want to do too much of a shadow behind the object, because none of the other ones have it. I think we'll be alright, because really the only places it's against the background is right there and right there. I think that's good. That's plenty. Maybe too much. Yeah, that works. Okay, so now for the ribbon, I want to do red, but I want to do a different red than this. I'm going to do the same red as in the background on this square. So that is Polychromos, 225 and 219. So we'll use the darker 225 down here in the shadows. Pretty dark in those shadows and at the base of the bow that goes underneath that ribbon loop, and then lighter as you go out. We'll blend that with the other one in just a moment. Just realized I didn't color behind the number. That shadow I put there was a little too heavy-handed, so I'm going to color over that a little bit. Okay. So now for the edge, we're going to use the gray that we used, or the silver, excuse me, that we used for the candlestick on the first square, and these are Polychromos, 181, 233, 233, yeah. The 3s and the 5s look quite a bit alike to me, and then 234. Let's see. So we're going to do this. And I want to make those little stripes in the edge red, so I'm going to try not to color over those with this. Try to give it a little bit of depth by doing a darker color on the edges here. We'll fill in with the lighter color. Some of that darker color shows up. I think I used a little more pressure in some spots, so I might need to go back and adjust that a little bit with the darker gray. Oops, it's colored over where I want to go red, but I don't think that'll hurt too much. And then what I'm going to do is add still the darkest color here to separate it from those corner pieces a little bit. And I'll do the corner pieces in the same two lighter shades of gray. I'm not sure how much I love the silver against the tan background, but it is what it is. I don't think it's awful. Maybe not quite too dramatic or anything, but okay. So then the darker red from the ribbon. This is 225 for these little stripes right here. There's something going on with the stripes right there, and I got to figure out what. The pattern is double, single, double, so I think this is supposed to be the double right here, which means that's the single, which means that needs to be gray. There we go. Okay. Sometimes you got to do a little detective work when lines kind of overlap. And red for this number. A little bit of white on the berries. Oh, I missed a little bit of gray, I think. Maybe right there. Again, my nib feels a little plugged up, so scribble it out on another piece of paper. There we go. Well, at this point, every single square has at least a little bit of white pen, so I think every square from now on will have to have at least a little bit. Okay, there we have day 6. I will see you all tomorrow, and I will leave a link up here for the playlist that has all of the previous squares if you want to catch up. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow.